there everybody, and welcome back to the Blossom Crochet channel. My name is Rebecca, and if this is your first time visiting my channel, then just take a moment now to subscribe and also click on that little bell icon and click to receive notifications so that you never miss one of my crochet videos. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the amazing Crocodile Stitch. Now this stitch, as you can see, is incredibly textured and really beautiful. So it's very obvious why it's called the Crocodile Stitch, because these look like beautiful scales. So you can see all of that detail and texture that you get with this stitch. So this is a blanket that I started, actually I'm embarrassed to say I started it a few years ago. I think you're talking probably nearly 4 years ago, and as you can see it still isn't quite finished. But I've changed colour on this every 4 rows so that you get 2 rows of each colour. But obviously you can do however you like, or one colour, individual, whatever. It's totally up to you. Do you know, I just thought as well, I always get asked what the back of stitches look like. So that is what the back of the Crocodile Stitch looks like. It's actually really beautiful. So it's equally as pretty on the front as it is on the back. Okay, so for your foundation row you want to chain in multiples of 6. So the width you want your project to be as a multiple of 6. So yarn over and pull through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if you just complete your foundation chain in a multiple of 6. So once you've completed your multiples of 6, you want to add an additional 4 chains to the end. Into the 3rd chain from the hook we're going to work 1 treble crochet. So remember that is a UK treble. In the US these are your double crochet. So 1, 2, and this is your 3rd chain. So you're going to yarn over, insert into that 3rd chain, yarn over and pull up, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your first set of 2 trebles together in the same stitch. You're going to chain 2, skip 2 chains on your foundation chain, and then work 2 UK trebles into that 3rd chain. It's 1 and back into that same chain, 2. Again, chain 2, skip 2 and 2 trebles, and you'll just repeat that all the way along, and I will meet you towards the end of your foundation chain in just a second. So you want to finish in your final chain with 2 trebles into that very last chain. 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 3. And we're not going to turn our work because we're actually going to be working around this treble crochet here. So that chain 3 is going to count as your first treble crochet. So we're now going to do 4 more treble crochets. So that chain 3 counts as your first, and you're going to do 4 around this treble here. So you want to yarn over, insert in that space between the 2 trebles, and do 1. And again, 2, 3, and 4. So obviously that is technically now 5 trebles because our chain 3 counted as the first one. Chain 1, and then your slip knot might just get in the way a little bit here. And then you're going to turn your work around a little bit so that you can work your next set of stitches around this next treble. So we did have it like this, and you're just going to turn it around so that you've got it facing that way. So we're going to work around the 2nd treble now, and we're going to do 5 treble crochets. So insert around that treble and do 5 trebles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, So now once you've done that, if you just turn your work back how it should be, you can see you've got your very first crocodile stitch. Okay, so you want to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next set of 2 trebles and we're going to work around the next set. So skip 1 set and work around the next. So again, I know this bit's a little bit fiddly, but it will get easier. So skip that set and then you're going to work your 5 trebles around the next. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 1, turn your work slightly again so that you can work back up the side of the next treble. So you're going to do your 5 trebles around the other half of that set of trebles. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 1. If you lay it out, you can see you've got your next scale for your crocodile stitch. So again, now you will skip the next set of 2 trebles and work your next scale around the next set. So skip 1 set. So again, around the first of the trebles, you'll do your 5 treble crochets. Chain 1, and then again turn it around again to work back up your next treble with your 5 treble crochet. So there you go, you now have 3, and then you'll work that all the way along until you get to the very end, where you will skip 1 set of your trebles and you should have 1 set of trebles left to work your final scale around. So always make sure you do your chain 1 and then work your final scale around that very last set of treble stitches. So you've got 1 treble and then the chain. Three, 4, 5, chain 1, turn, and then work your final set of 5 trebles up that very end stitch, which is your chain that you skipped at the beginning of the foundation. Three, 4, 5. So that is how you should look at the end of your first scale row. So we're going to keep our work facing us and we're going to chain 3, and that's going to count as your first treble crochet, and then you're going to put 1 treble crochet in the gap of your scales. So yarn over, insert into the middle of that gap and do your treble. You're going to chain 2, and then if you just separate your scales for a second and look for that set of trebles that you skipped on the previous row, you're going to work 2 treble crochets in between those 2 trebles. So yarn over, go in between those 2 trebles and complete 2 trebles. So 1, again in between the 2 trebles that you skipped, and 2, chain 2, and then 2 trebles into the center of your scale. So 1 and 2, chain 2, again lift your scales and look for the trebles that you skipped and work 2 trebles in between. 1 and 2, chain 2, and just continue that until you get towards the end. So you'll finish with your 2 trebles in the centre of that final scale. So for this next row you want to chain 1, and we're not going to be working any stitches around these trebles because otherwise your scales would all be on top of each other and we want to offset them. So you're going to chain 1 and you're just going to ignore these 2 trebles, and we're going to jump straight to this set of trebles here and just pinch so that you can get around that first treble, and you'll do your 5 trebles around that first treble. 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, and 5. Chain 1 as before, you'll turn and then work your 5 trebles up the next treble to complete your scale. So I know this is a bit fiddly, but the more you do it, the easier it will become. So complete your 5 trebles. And 5, chain 1, and then again you'll skip the next set of bees and work your next scale around the next set of trebles. So skip that set and work around the first treble of the next set and do your 5 trebles. Chain 1, again turn your work so that you can work back up the next treble. And 5, chain 1. Let me just lay that out for you for a second. So your scales now should be offset, and you'll continue that all the way along your row. So you'll skip the next set of trebles here and then work a next scale. So if you continue that, and I will meet you when you get to the end where you will have this set left. So once you get towards the end, you're going to finish with a chain 1, and then you'll have that first set that you did in the centre scale of the row below. And you've got a gap here where you just want to slip stitch into. So just turn your work a little, it's a bit easier to slip stitch if you do it from the back. So slip stitch and then turn your work back around. So that is how you should look at the end of that row. So your scales should all be offset with each other. Okay, so now you want to chain 3 and put your treble crochet into the base where that space is. So that is your first set of 2 trebles. Chain 2, and then into the centre of your scale you will do 2 trebles, 1 and 2. Chain 2, and then again lift your scales and look for the 2 trebles that you skipped and put 2 trebles in between those 2 trebles. So 1 and 2, chain 2, and in the centre of your scales again. So continue that all the way along until you get to the end of your row. when you get to the end, if you just lift that very last scale from the row below, and you've got those 2 trebles, so you're going to finish with 2 trebles in between those final 2 trebles, so 1 and 2, and then at this point you're ready to start your repeat. So you will repeat now that row, so you will chain 3, which will count as your first treble, and then complete your scale around that very first treble. So you will do 4 because the chain 3 counts as your first treble, and obviously you want 5 in total. Chain 1, turn, and then your next 5 trebles up the next treble. So hopefully now you should be able to repeat those 4 rows over and over again until your project is the size that you want it to be. Obviously, if you're going to be changing colour, you will want to change colour at the start of one of your setup rows for your scales. You're not going to want to change colour on your scale row. You're going to want to do it on the other row. And so you can see now at the start of this row, you will be offsetting your scales once again. So you should hopefully now be able to repeat those 4 rows until your project is the size that you want it to be. Once you've completed as many rows as you want, obviously you're going to want to end on a scale row, not one of your setup rows. So you're going to want to finish on a row of your scales. And then you will have these slight gaps at the end of your offset rows, but obviously once you pop a border on, you're not going to notice that at all, or even if you're just leaving it as a scarf or something, because obviously when you look at the row we've just done here, you can see that those gaps will be covered by the scale of the next row. So I really hope that you've enjoyed the crocodile stitch. Like I say, it is an amazing stitch to work up, and you can see how effective it is with the more rows that you have. It really is an amazing stitch pattern. So I will see you again for another tutorial really soon, but thank you as always for watching, and bye for now.